Admiral Kate Morrison stood on the bridge of her warship and watched the battle end badly. Again. The screens showed human ships pulling back from another fight they could not win. 12 years of this war, and they were still losing. "How many ships did we lose today?" she asked Captain Ryan Bell. "2 destroyers, ma'am, the Portland and the Chicago. 300 good people." Ryan's voice was tired. Everyone was tired after 12 years of fighting the same fight over and over. Kate looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed where the alien ships had been. The Zephyrians had pulled back to their safe zone again, just like always. They never pushed too hard. They never took big risks. They just kept grinding humanity down bit by bit. The Zephyrians were smart. Their ships were better. Their weapons were stronger. Their technology was far ahead of anything humans had. But they were patient. Too patient. They seemed happy to fight this war forever, as long as they kept winning slowly. Kate had been fighting them for 8 years now. She had seen friends die. She had watched colonies burn. She had retreated from more battles than she could count. The aliens always seemed to know what humans would do before they did it. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Chang worked in a secret lab deep under the mountains. Her job was to find new weapons, new ways to fight, anything that might help win this war. But every time her team built something new, the Zephyrians found a way to stop it within months. "It's like they can read our minds," Lisa said to her assistant, Dr. Alex Rivera. "Every new weapon, every new tactic, they counter it before we can use it properly." Alex nodded. "Maybe they're just that much smarter than us." "No," Lisa said. "I don't think it's about being smart. They think differently than we do. More organized, more predictable." The war had started when the Zephyrians arrived at the edge of human space. They sent one message: "Surrender now and serve us, or we will take what we want by force." Humanity had chosen to fight. Looking back, Kate sometimes wondered if that had been the right choice. The aliens didn't seem cruel. Exactly. They didn't torture prisoners or destroy things just to be mean. They were efficient. They took what they needed and moved on. But their idea of humanity's place in the galaxy was clear. Humans would be workers, servants, pets. President Helen Carter met with her military leaders every week. The news was always the same. Small victories here and there, but the big picture never changed. Humanity was losing ground. "The people are getting tired," General Marcus Webb told her. "Protests on Earth are getting bigger. The colonies are talking about making their own peace deals." "What kind of peace?" Carter asked. "Surrender," Webb said simply. "Give the Zephyrians what they want and hope they treat us well." Carter looked out the window at Washington. The city looked normal, but she knew the fear was there. 12 years of war had worn everyone down. Parents didn't want to send their children to fight anymore. Workers didn't want to build warships that would just get destroyed. Back on her ship, Kate walked through the corridors. Young sailors saluted her as she passed. Most of them had been born after the war started. They had never known peace. This endless fighting was all they knew. She stopped at the medical bay. Dr. Emma Price was treating wounded from the latest battle. "How are they doing, Doc?" "They'll live," Emma said. "But I keep seeing the same wounds, the same burns. We keep fighting the same battles." "What do you mean?" Emma wiped her hands on a towel. "The injury patterns are always similar. The Zephyrians use the same weapons, the same tactics. They never seem to change much. They just keep doing what works." Kate thought about that. It was true. The Zephyrians were consistent. Their attacks followed patterns, their retreats were predictable. Even their victories seemed planned out in advance. In her lab, Lisa was studying captured Zephyrian technology. The alien devices were beautiful, all smooth lines and perfect curves. Everything was designed with mathematical precision. Nothing was random or chaotic. "Look at this," she said to Alex, holding up a piece of alien equipment. "Every part fits perfectly with every other part. No wasted space, no extra pieces, no backup systems that don't match the main design. So they're Good engineers. More than that, they think in straight lines. Everything has one purpose, one function, one way to work. Lisa set the device down. Humans don't build things like this. We add extra parts, backup systems, weird modifications that somehow work. Alex laughed. You're saying we're messy? I'm saying we're unpredictable. Lieutenant Jake Turner was a fighter pilot. He had survived more battles than most pilots because he never did what the training manuals said to do. He flew in patterns that didn't make sense on paper but somehow worked in real combat. Turner, explain your flight path in Sector 7, his commander had asked after one battle. I saw the enemy ships moving to intercept, so I went around them. There was no around in Sector 7. The tactical computer showed solid enemy coverage. Jake had shrugged. I found a way. The strange thing was, Jake always found a way. Other pilots tried to copy his methods, but they couldn't. What worked for Jake didn't work for anyone else. His success seemed random, but it happened too often to be luck. Captain Sophie Ward commanded a special forces unit that had won battles they should have lost. Her soldiers could sneak through enemy bases that seemed impossible to penetrate. They always seemed to know which path would be clear, which guards would be looking the other way. How do you do it? Other commanders asked her. I don't know, Sophie admitted. We just go where it feels right. That wasn't a satisfactory answer for military planners, but it was the truth. Sophie's unit operated on instinct, making choices that seemed wrong but somehow worked out perfectly. The war dragged on. Earth's factories built new ships to replace the ones that were lost. Colonies trained new soldiers to replace the ones who died. Scientists like Lisa searched for new answers to old problems, but the Zephyrians seemed content to keep the war going exactly as it was. They won most battles but didn't push for total victory. They captured territory but didn't expand too quickly. They acted like they had all the time in the universe. Kate stood on her bridge again, preparing for another battle. The tactical display showed the same patterns as always. Zephyrian ships in formation waiting for the human attack. Human ships approaching in standard formation, ready to fight and probably lose. But something was bothering her. Something about the way her best pilots and commanders operated. People like Jake Turner and Sophie Ward seemed to break all the rules and somehow make it work. They fought in ways that didn't make sense but got results. Captain Bell, she said. Yes, ma'am? Get me the files on our most successful unit commanders, the ones with the best survival rates. Looking for new tactics? Kate watched the enemy formation on her screen. Maybe. Or maybe I'm looking for something we don't understand about ourselves. The battle began like all the others. Human ships advanced, Zephyrian ships responded. Weapons fired, shields flared, ships died. But Kate found herself watching her own forces more carefully than usual. Some of her captains fought by the book and took heavy losses. Others seemed to improvise, taking wild chances that somehow paid off. The difference wasn't training or equipment. It was something else, something that made certain humans unpredictable in ways that confused even their own side. As the battle ended in another tactical retreat, Kate made a decision. She would talk to Dr. Chang about this. Maybe the answer to winning this war wasn't better technology or tactics. Maybe it was understanding what made some humans different from others, and different from the Zephyrians who seemed to have humanity figured out perfectly. Dr. Lisa Chang was having trouble sleeping again. She kept thinking about the brain scans from the successful pilots and commanders. Something was wrong with the data, or maybe something was very right with it. She got up at 3 in the morning and went back to her lab. The mountain facility was quiet at this hour. Only a few security guards and night shift workers were around. Lisa liked working when it was quiet. She could think better. She pulled up the brain scans on her computer. Lieutenant Jake Turner's scan from last week showed patterns that shouldn't exist. When he was flying in combat, his brain lit up in ways that defied medical science. This is impossible, she whispered to herself. Normal human brains process information in sequence. One thought leads to another thought. People make decisions based on what they know right now. But Jake's brain seemed to be processing multiple streams of information at the same time, as if he was thinking about several different battles happening. At once, Lisa called her assistant Alex. He answered on the fourth ring, sounding sleepy. "Dr. Rivera, I need you to come in, right now." "Lisa, it's 3 in the morning. I know what time it is. I think I found something important." Alex arrived an hour later with coffee and complaints. "This better be good." Lisa showed him Jake's brain scan. "Look at this activity pattern during his last dogfight." Alex studied the screen. His complaints died away. "That's not normal human brain activity." "No, it's not. Look at these neural pathways. They're firing in patterns that suggest parallel processing, as if his brain is running multiple scenarios at the same time." "Like a computer?" "No, not like a computer. Computers process information fast, but they still do it one step at a time. This is different. Jake's brain seems to be experiencing multiple possibilities simultaneously." Alex rubbed his eyes. "That's impossible. Human brains don't work that way." "Human brains aren't supposed to work that way," Lisa corrected. "But what if some of them do? What if that's why Jake survives battles he should lose?" They spent the rest of the night analyzing the data. By morning, they had a theory that sounded crazy, but fit the evidence. Some humans could access what Lisa called probability streams, different versions of the same situation happening at the same time. Admiral Kate Morrison received Lisa's report while her ship was docked for repairs. She read it twice before calling a meeting with her senior staff. "This sounds like science fiction," Captain Ryan Bell said after Lisa finished her presentation. "So did space travel once," Kate replied. "Dr. Chang, you're saying that some of our people can see the future?" "Not exactly see the future," Lisa explained. "More like they can see multiple possible futures at the same time. Their brains process different outcomes simultaneously and choose the best path." Captain Sophie Ward was in the meeting. She had been quiet until now. "That actually makes sense," she said. Everyone looked at her. "When I'm planning a mission, I don't just think about one approach. I think about dozens of ways it could go, but it's not like I'm making a list. It's more like I'm watching different movies play in my head at the same time." Lisa leaned forward. "Can you control it?" Sophie thought for a moment. "Sometimes. When things get really dangerous, it happens automatically. I'll see several ways a firefight could go, and I just know which path to take." Kate ordered more testing. Within a week, they had brain scans from 50 successful commanders and pilots. The results were consistent. About 1 in every 1,000 humans showed some level of what Lisa called quantum consciousness, the ability to process multiple probability streams. The discovery spread to other research teams. On Mars, Dr. Kevin Stone was studying reaction times in combat situations. He found that certain soldiers could dodge attacks that hadn't been fired yet. Their bodies would start moving to avoid danger before their conscious minds registered the threat. "It's like they're responding to attacks from parallel timelines," he reported to Earth. On the space station orbiting Jupiter, Dr. Rachel White was analyzing navigation data. She found that some pilots could plot courses through asteroid fields. That should have been impossible. They avoided collisions with rocks that weren't in their sensors' range. "They're navigating through multiple versions of the same space," she concluded. The military brass was skeptical at first. General Marcus Webb called it wishful thinking disguised as science, but the evidence kept mounting. Humans with quantum consciousness abilities consistently outperformed their peers in every combat situation. Commander Paul Grant was a cargo ship captain who had never lost a shipment despite traveling the most dangerous routes in human space. When researchers tested him, his quantum consciousness readings were off the charts. "I just know which routes to take," he explained. "I'll be looking at a star chart, and one path will feel right, while others feel wrong. I can't explain it better than that." Lisa's team developed a theory about how this ability worked. Human brains, they discovered, had unused neural pathways that could potentially interface with quantum mechanics. Most people never accessed these pathways. But stress, danger, and combat could trigger them in some individuals. "Evolution," Lisa explained to the Research Council. Humans evolved on a chaotic planet where survival often depended on making split-second decisions with incomplete information. Maybe some of us developed the ability to peek around corners that don't quite exist yet. The Zephyrians, meanwhile, had no idea what was happening. Their intelligence reports showed normal human military activity. They saw weapons testing, tactical exercises, personnel transfers. Nothing unusual. But they were wrong. Something very unusual was happening in the deep research labs and training facilities scattered across human space. Scientists were learning to identify and measure quantum consciousness. Military trainers were learning to recognize soldiers who possessed these abilities naturally. Captain Amy Foster had been a librarian before the war. She had always been good at finding information that other people couldn't locate. Books that should have been checked out were somehow available when she needed them. Research materials appeared in exactly the right places at exactly the right times. When the military tested her, they found she could process information from multiple sources simultaneously. Not just reading fast, but actually following dozens of different trains of thought at once. It's like having several conversations in my head, she explained. Each voice is exploring a different possibility. Then I just know which voice has the right answer. The training programs began quietly. Selected individuals were brought to classified facilities and taught to consciously access their quantum consciousness abilities. The results were remarkable. Test subjects learned to predict combat outcomes with incredible accuracy. They could coordinate complex operations without communication, as if they were sharing thoughts. They could solve problems that stumped computers by exploring multiple solution paths simultaneously. Lieutenant Jake Turner became one of the first instructors. It's not about being psychic, he told new trainees. It's about letting your brain work the way it was designed to work. Most people only use one track of thinking at a time. We're learning to use all the tracks. The breakthrough came when researchers realized they could temporarily boost quantum consciousness abilities in ordinary humans. Dr. Lisa Chang's team developed neural amplifiers, devices that could stimulate the unused pathways in the human brain. The technology was dangerous. The amplifiers could cause headaches, confusion, and in some cases, temporary memory loss. But for a few hours, they could turn any human into someone who could think in multiple timelines. General Webb was finally convinced when he tried an amplifier himself. For 3 hours, he experienced what it was like to process multiple probability streams simultaneously. He could see dozens of ways a battle might unfold, all happening at the same time in his mind. This changes everything, he told President Carter. If we can give this ability to our entire military, we can win this war. But the technology was limited. The amplifiers only worked for short periods. The human brain could only handle quantum consciousness for a few hours before it needed to rest, and the process was exhausting. We get one shot, Dr. Chang warned. We can boost every human soldier for maybe 5 or 6 hours. After that, they'll need days to recover. The plan began to form. Instead of another long campaign, humanity would attempt something unprecedented. They would coordinate a single, massive strike using every quantum-capable human simultaneously. Admiral Morrison studied the tactical requirements. We would need perfect timing across dozens of star systems. Every unit would have to act at exactly the right moment. That's the beauty of quantum consciousness, Lisa explained. People operating on multiple probability streams can coordinate without communication. They can sense when other quantum-conscious individuals are about to act. The proposal went to the highest levels of government. President Carter met with her advisors to discuss Operation Mindstorm, a plan to end the war in a single day using humanity's newly discovered abilities. It's our best chance, General Webb argued. Maybe our only chance. The traditional war isn't working. We're losing slowly, but surely. Carter made the decision. Do it. Coordinate with every human military unit. Train everyone who can be trained. Build as many amplifiers as possible. The training facility on Mars looked nothing like a normal military base. Instead of parade grounds and obstacle courses, there were meditation rooms and brain scanning chambers. Instead of weapons training, Soldiers learned to quiet their minds and listen to thoughts that came from multiple timelines. Captain Amy Foster sat in one of the training pods, electrodes attached to her head. She had been a small-town librarian 6 months ago. Now she was learning to consciously control abilities she never knew she had. Focus on the combat scenario, Dr. Kevin Stone told her through the intercom. Don't try to solve it with one approach. Let your mind explore multiple solutions at the same time. On the screen in front of Amy, a tactical situation played out. Enemy ships approaching a human convoy. She had to find the best way to protect the cargo vessels, but instead of thinking through one plan, she let her mind wander into different possibilities. In one stream of thought, she saw the convoy breaking apart and scattering. In another, she saw the escort ships forming a defensive wall. In a third, she saw the human ships fleeing toward an asteroid field. All 3 scenarios played in her head simultaneously, like watching 3 different movies at once. I can see it, she said softly. The scatter pattern works best, but only if the third escort ship delays for 47 seconds before breaking formation. Dr. Stone checked his computers. The simulation confirmed her analysis. Amy had found the optimal solution by exploring possibilities that existed in parallel probability streams. Across the facility, hundreds of other humans were learning similar skills. Lieutenant Jake Turner, now an instructor, worked with new trainees who showed natural quantum consciousness abilities. Don't fight it, he told them. Your brain wants to think in straight lines because that's what you were taught in school. But combat isn't a straight line. It's chaos. Let your mind be chaotic too. Private Danny Walsh was having trouble with the training. He kept trying to force his thoughts into logical sequences. I can't do it, sir. My brain doesn't work like that. Jake sat down next to him. What did you do before the war? I was a mechanic. Fixed cars and trucks. Did you ever work on a problem where you tried 3 different solutions at the same time? Danny thought about it. Well, yeah. Sometimes I'd be checking the engine, the electrical system, and the transmission all at once. I'd let my hands work on one thing while my mind thought about the others. That's exactly what we're trying to do here. Let different parts of your mind work on different problems simultaneously. The breakthrough came when Danny stopped trying to control the process. He let his thoughts scatter into multiple streams, each exploring a different aspect of the combat scenario. Within minutes, he was processing probability streams like the other trainees. Dr. Lisa Chang monitored the training progress from her lab on Earth. The results were better than expected. Humans with natural quantum consciousness abilities were learning to control their talents. More importantly, the neural amplifiers were successfully giving the same abilities to ordinary soldiers. How many people can we enhance? General Marcus Webb asked during their weekly briefing. Every human in the military, Lisa replied. The amplifiers work on anyone. The limitation is time. We can boost someone for about 5 hours before their brain needs to rest. And after that, they'll be exhausted for days. Maybe weeks. This is a one-time operation. We get one chance to use this ability on a large scale. The plan for Operation Mindstorm was taking shape. Every human military unit would be equipped with neural amplifiers. At exactly the same moment, millions of human soldiers, pilots, and commanders would become quantum-conscious beings capable of thinking across multiple timelines. Admiral Kate Morrison reviewed the tactical requirements from her flagship. The operation would require perfect coordination across 17 star systems. Human forces would need to attack simultaneously, with each unit knowing exactly when to act without any communication between them. How is that possible? Captain Ryan Bell asked. Quantum consciousness creates a kind of mental network, Dr. Chang explained via video link. People operating in probability streams can sense when others are about to act. They don't communicate. In the normal sense, they just know. Commander Paul Grant was chosen to lead one of the assault fleets. His natural ability to navigate impossible routes made him perfect for the mission. He would take his ships through hyperspace using paths that existed only in probability streams. I can see the routes, he told his navigator. They're not on any chart because they only exist when we need them to exist. Captain Sophie Ward trained Special Forces teams for ground operations. Her soldiers learned to move through enemy installations by following paths that seemed impossible, but somehow worked perfectly. "Don't think about where the guards are," she told them. "Think about where the guards won't be. Follow the timeline where we encounter no resistance." The neural amplifier technology was distributed across human space. Military engineers worked around the clock to build enough devices for every soldier. The amplifiers looked simple, just a headband with small electronic components. But each one contained technology that could temporarily rewire the human brain. Testing showed that amplified humans could perform incredible feats. Pilots could navigate through enemy formations as if they knew every move their opponents would make. Soldiers could fight battles where they always seemed to be in the right place at the right time. Commanders could coordinate complex operations without issuing orders, but the technology came with risks. Some test subjects experienced severe headaches. Others had temporary memory loss. A few suffered what doctors called timeline confusion, difficulty distinguishing between different probability streams. "We're asking human brains to do something they weren't designed for," Dr. Lisa Chang warned. "The amplifiers work, but they're pushing neural pathways beyond their limits." President Helen Carter made the decision anyway. "We've been fighting this war for 12 years. Traditional tactics aren't working. If this gives us a chance to end it, we have to try." The Zephyrians remained unaware of humanity's preparations. Their intelligence networks reported normal military activity. They saw fleet movements, training exercises, and equipment transfers. Nothing suggested that humans were developing entirely new ways to think and fight. Fleet Commander Kethalar reviewed the latest reports from his intelligence staff. "The humans are preparing another offensive," he told his subordinates. "Their patterns suggest a desperate attack across multiple fronts." "Should we reinforce our defensive positions?" asked his tactical officer. "No need. Human attacks follow predictable patterns. We will counter them as we always have." The Zephyrians had fought dozens of species across the galaxy. They had developed tactics that worked against linear thinking opponents. They understood how most minds worked, processing information sequentially, making decisions based on current data, reacting to events as they happened. They had no experience fighting beings who could think across multiple timelines simultaneously. Lieutenant Jake Turner conducted the final training session for quantum consciousness instructors. These were the humans who would help others access their enhanced abilities during the operation. "Remember," he told them, "you're not just fighting in this timeline. You're fighting in all possible timelines. Your job is to help others see the paths where humanity wins." Private Danny Walsh had become one of the most successful trainees. His mechanical background helped him understand how different systems could work together simultaneously. "It's like tuning an engine," he explained to newer students. "You don't adjust one thing at a time. You listen to the whole machine and make all the adjustments work together." The neural amplifiers were tested one final time. Dr. Stone activated a device and immediately felt his consciousness expand across multiple probability streams. For a few minutes he could see dozens of ways the upcoming battle might unfold. "It's overwhelming at first," he reported. "But then you learn to focus on the streams where we win." Operation Mindstorm was scheduled to begin in 72 hours. Across human space, military units received their final orders. Every soldier would put on a neural amplifier at exactly the same moment. For 5 hours, humanity would become something beyond a normal species. Admiral Morrison addressed her fleet commanders via encrypted transmission. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to attempt something that has never been tried in galactic history. We're going to fight a war using abilities that most species don't even know exist." Captain Amy Foster prepared her boarding teams for their assault on a Zephyrian command vessel. "We're not just going to capture that ship," she told them. "We're going to capture it in every timeline where capture is possible." The countdown began. Across 17 star systems, human forces prepared for the most unusual battle in galactic history. They would attack not just with superior tactics or better weapons, but with a form of consciousness that their enemies couldn't understand or counter. In his command center, Fleet Commander Kethalar made final preparations for what he expected to be another routine human offensive. His ships were in position, his defenses were ready, his tactics had been successful for 12 years. At exactly 12 o'clock noon Earth time, Operation Mindstorm began. Across 17 star systems, millions of human soldiers put on their neural amplifiers at the same moment. The galaxy was about to witness something that had never happened before. Admiral Kate Morrison felt the change instantly. Her mind expanded beyond her skull, beyond her ship, beyond normal space and time. She could see the battle before it started. Not one battle, but dozens of possible battles all happening at once in her consciousness. "All units, activate amplifiers," she said into her communicator. But she already knew the other commanders were doing exactly that. She could feel their minds connecting across the quantum streams. On the bridge of the New Liberty, Captain Ryan Bell watched his admiral's eyes change. They seemed to be looking at something far away, something that existed in multiple places at once. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Kate smiled. "I'm seeing clearly for the first time in 12 years, Captain. Signal the fleet. Begin the attack." But the order was unnecessary. Every ship in the human fleet was already moving. Not because they received commands, but because every quantum-enhanced captain could see the perfect moment to strike across all probability streams. Lieutenant Jake Turner sat in his fighter cockpit as his squadron launched from the carrier deck. The neural amplifier felt strange on his head, boosting abilities he already possessed naturally. His consciousness split into dozens of streams, each one showing him a different way the coming dogfight could unfold. In one stream, he saw himself shot down in the first minute. In another, he destroyed 6 enemy fighters. In a third, he led the entire enemy squadron into an asteroid field where they crashed. All these possibilities existed simultaneously in his enhanced mind. "Ghost Squadron, form up on me," he said to his pilots. But they were already in perfect formation. Every pilot could see the same probability streams, the same optimal flight paths. The Zephyrian fleet around their capital world detected the approaching human ships. Fleet Commander Kethalar studied the tactical display with growing confusion. "How did they get so close without our sensors detecting them?" he demanded. "Sir, our sensors did detect them, but the human ships weren't where our computers predicted they would be. They took hyperspace routes that our navigation systems said were impossible." Kethalar watched the human fleet deploy for attack. Something was wrong. The human ships moved, with perfect coordination, but there were no communication signals between them. They seemed to know exactly where to go without talking to each other. "Begin defensive maneuvers," he ordered. But as soon as his ships started to move, the human vessels shifted to counter them. Not after his ships moved, but at the exact same time. As if the humans knew what he was going to do before he did it. "Captain." Sophie Ward led her boarding teams through the corridors of a Zephyrian space station. Her neural amplifier showed her multiple paths through the facility. In most timelines, the corridors were full of enemy soldiers, but in a few probability streams, the paths were clear. "Follow me," she told her teams, "and don't question the route." They moved through the station like ghosts. Every time they approached a corridor that should have been guarded, they found it empty. Every door that should have been locked was somehow open. Every security system that should have detected them was mysteriously offline. The Zephyrian station commander watched his security monitors in disbelief. "Where are the intruders? The sensors detected boarding pods, but I don't see anyone." "Sir, the pods landed in sections 7 through 12. Our security teams are responding. But the human boarding teams weren't in sections 7 through 12 anymore. They were moving through areas that weren't even on the station's blueprints, following paths that existed only in quantum probability streams. Commander Paul Grant led his fleet through hyperspace using routes that appeared only when he needed them. His navigators had given up trying to plot their course on conventional star charts. They were traveling through space that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Sir, the hyperspace route we're using doesn't appear in any navigation database," his helmsman reported. "That's because it only exists while we're using it," Paul replied. "Trust the quantum streams. They'll get us where we need to be." His fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect attack formation around a major Zephyrian shipyard. The timing was flawless. The positioning was impossible. His ships had materialized in exactly the right places to launch a devastating surprise attack. Dr. Lisa Chang monitored the operation from her lab on Earth. The quantum consciousness readings were off the charts. Millions of human minds were operating in enhanced states, creating a collective intelligence that spanned multiple realities. How are they coordinating without communication? Dr. Alex Rivera asked, watching the tactical displays. They don't need communication, Lisa explained. They're all accessing the same probability streams. They can see what each other is going to do before they do it. Fighter pilot Jake Turner engaged a squadron of Zephyrian interceptors in a battle that looked like a carefully choreographed dance. His enhanced mind could see every possible move his opponents might make, allowing him to counter attacks that hadn't been launched yet. He rolled his fighter left to avoid missiles that were fired 3 seconds later. He fired at empty space, knowing an enemy ship would be there when his shots arrived. He flew through defensive formations that should have destroyed him, following flight paths that existed only in quantum probability space. Behind him, his squadron mates followed similar, impossible routes. The Zephyrian pilots found themselves shooting at humans who weren't there anymore, being hit by weapons fired by humans who shouldn't have been able to see them. Captain Amy Foster led her boarding team onto the bridge of a Zephyrian command ship. The enemy crew surrendered without firing a shot, not because they were cowards, but because they could sense something wrong with the humans who had just appeared on their bridge. Your species thinks differently than ours, the Zephyrian captain said in perfect English. We can feel it. You exist in multiple realities at once. Amy nodded. Surrender your ship and we'll treat you well. Resist and we'll take it anyway, because we can see all the ways this can end. The Zephyrian looked into her eyes and saw something that terrified him. Her consciousness existed in several timelines simultaneously. She wasn't just threatening to take his ship. She was taking it in parallel realities where resistance was impossible. Across the 17 star systems, the same pattern repeated. Human forces struck with impossible coordination and perfect timing. They avoided enemy defenses by following paths that existed only in probability streams. They countered enemy tactics before those tactics were implemented. Fleet Commander Kethalar watched his empire's defenses crumble in real time. How are they doing this? He demanded. Their ships are moving to counter our strategies before we implement them. His tactical officer studied the sensor readings. Sir, I don't think they're predicting our movements. I think they're responding to movements from parallel timelines. Our computers can't analyze their behavior because they're acting on information that doesn't exist in our reality. The 4th hour of the operation saw Zephyrian resistance begin to collapse. Their linear thinking couldn't cope with enemies who fought from multiple realities simultaneously. Every defensive strategy failed because humans were responding to versions of those strategies that existed only in quantum probability space. Private Danny Walsh had become a squad leader during the assault on a Zephyrian ground facility. His mechanical background helped him understand how the quantum consciousness worked. He could feel the different probability streams like engines running in parallel. Move left, he told his squad, even though the tactical situation suggested they should go right. Sarge, there's a wall there. There's a wall in this timeline. In the timeline we're following, there's a door. His squad moved left and found a maintenance entrance that hadn't been on their building plans. They entered the facility without encountering any resistance, following a path that existed only in the probability stream where their mission succeeded perfectly. The Zephyrian defenders inside the facility couldn't understand what was happening. Their security systems detected intruders, but the humans were never where the sensors said they should be. Guards rushed to defend areas that turned out to be empty, while the real attack came from directions that should have been impossible. Admiral Morrison felt the moment when Zephyrian resistance finally broke. It wasn't a single event, but a wave of surrender that spread across multiple star systems simultaneously. Enemy commanders were giving up not because they were defeated, but because they realized they were fighting beings they couldn't understand. All units, the enemy is surrendering, she announced. But every human commander already knew. They could feel the shift in the probability streams, the moment when Zephyrian will to fight collapsed across all possible timelines. Dr. Chang watched. The quantum consciousness readings begin to fade as the neural amplifiers reach their time limits. Human minds were returning to normal linear thinking after 5 hours of existing in multiple realities. "It's over," she said to her team. Operation Mindstorm succeeded. The war ended at exactly 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Earth time. Across 17 star systems, Zephyrian forces laid down their weapons and waited for orders that would never come. Their commanders had surrendered to beings they couldn't understand. Admiral Kate Morrison stood on her bridge as the neural amplifier effects faded from her mind. The quantum consciousness was leaving her, like waking up from a vivid dream. But the memory remained. For 5 hours, she had existed in multiple realities at once. "Status report," she said to Captain Ryan Bell. "All Zephyrian fleets have surrendered, ma'am. No human casualties reported in the final hour. It's like they just gave up fighting." Kate nodded. She understood why. The Zephyrians hadn't been defeated in battle. They had been shown that humanity could think in ways that made normal combat impossible. When your enemy can see all possible futures and choose the one where they win, resistance becomes pointless. On Earth, President Helen Carter addressed the nation from the Rose Garden. Citizens gathered around television screens in their homes, in bars, in public squares. After 12 years of war, peace had come so suddenly that many people couldn't believe it. "Today we didn't just win a war," Carter announced. "We discovered what humanity truly is. We are a species that thinks in possibilities, that can exist in multiple realities at the same time. This is our gift to the galaxy." The crowds cheered, but there was uncertainty in their voices. What did it mean to be timeline walkers? What did it mean to fight battles in parallel realities? The science was too new, too strange for most people to understand. Dr. Lisa Chang found herself appointed as Earth's first director of quantum consciousness research. Her small team had grown into a major government department overnight. The discovery that had started with strange brain scans was now reshaping human civilization. "We're not just Homo sapiens anymore," she explained to the Global Science Council. "We're something new. A species that can think outside the normal flow of time and space." The implications were staggering. If humans could access quantum consciousness, naturally, what else might they be capable of? How many other abilities were hidden in the human brain, waiting to be discovered? Fleet Commander Cathalar requested a meeting with Admiral Morrison. The Zephyrian leader arrived at the peace negotiations with a small escort, his crystalline features showing something humans had never seen before in his species. "Fear. Your people terrify us," he admitted during the first meeting. "We have fought many species across the galaxy, but we have never encountered beings who could exist in multiple timelines simultaneously." Morrison studied the alien commander. "Is that why you attacked us, because you were afraid?" "We weren't afraid when we started the war," Cathalar explained. "We thought you were just another young species with primitive technology. But as the war continued, some of our analysts began to notice patterns. Your most successful warriors seemed to make impossible decisions. They acted on information they shouldn't have possessed." The truth came out slowly during the negotiations. The Zephyrians weren't the galactic conquerors they had appeared to be. They were refugees. Their linear thinking had made them predictable to other quantum-conscious species, who had driven them to the edge of extinction. "We attacked humanity because we thought you were like us," Cathalar continued. "Linear thinkers who would follow predictable patterns. We believed we could defeat you using the same tactics that had worked against other conventional species." Admiral Morrison felt a mix of anger and pity. "You started a 12-year war because you misunderstood us? We thought linear thinking was a survival trait. We didn't realize that humans represented something entirely different. Your quantum consciousness abilities are far beyond anything we had encountered before." The peace negotiations revealed more surprises. The Zephyrians possessed technology that humans had only dreamed of. Advanced manufacturing, energy systems, medical knowledge that could extend human lifespans by centuries. They offered all of it freely. "Why?" President Carter asked. "Because we need your protection," Cathalar replied simply. "There are species in this galaxy that make us look primitive, beings who can manipulate reality itself. Your quantum consciousness abilities might be the only thing that can stand against them. Dr. Chang established research stations throughout former Zephyrian territory. Her team studied the combination of human quantum consciousness and alien technology. The results exceeded all expectations. Humans working with Zephyrian equipment could achieve things that neither species could accomplish alone. They could navigate through regions of space that normal minds couldn't comprehend. They could solve engineering problems by exploring solutions that existed in parallel probability streams. Captain Sophie Ward became the first human ambassador to something called the Galactic Council. The existence of this organization had been hidden from humanity during the war. Now they learned that dozens of species had been watching the conflict with interest. "Your debut was impressive," the council representative told her during their first meeting. "Ending a 12-year war in 5 hours definitely got our attention." Sophie studied the alien beings around the council chamber. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange she couldn't tell which end was the head. How many species can do what humans do? Think in quantum streams? Perhaps 3 or 4 out of the thousands of species we know. Your people are very rare. The galaxy was much larger and more dangerous than humans had realized. Species that could manipulate time, beings that existed in multiple dimensions, entities that fed on the thoughts of other creatures. The universe was full of wonders and terrors that linear thinking species couldn't even perceive. Lieutenant Jake Turner established the Quantum Flight Academy on a moon orbiting Jupiter. His students learned to pilot ships through hyperspace, routes that existed only in probability streams. They could navigate dangers that would destroy conventional vessels. "Flying in quantum consciousness is like playing music," he told his students. "You're not just hitting the right notes. You're playing all possible songs at the same time and choosing the melody that sounds best." His graduates could take ships to places that didn't exist on star charts. They explored regions of space where the laws of physics worked differently, where thoughts could become reality, and reality could be changed by thinking about it. Private. Danny Walsh returned to civilian life but found that his mechanical skills had been transformed by his quantum consciousness training. He could repair machines by understanding how they worked in parallel timelines. His garage became famous for fixing things that other mechanics said were impossible to repair. "It's like the machines tell me what's wrong with them," he explained to customers. "I can see how they're supposed to work in the timeline where they function perfectly." The former Zephyrian territories became the Quantum Protectorate, jointly administered by humans and their former enemies. The combination of species created innovations that amazed the galaxy. Cities that existed in multiple dimensions, ships that could travel through time, weapons that could defeat enemies in parallel realities. But the most important discovery was that quantum consciousness could be learned. Children born after the war showed natural quantum signatures, as if the species was evolving in real time. The neural amplifiers became safer and more effective, allowing ordinary humans to access timeline walking abilities when needed. Captain Amy Foster led exploration missions into regions of space that had been considered too dangerous for any species to enter. Her teams could navigate through areas where reality itself was unstable, where the laws of physics changed without warning. "We're not just exploring space anymore," she reported to Earth. "We're exploring possibilities. We're mapping routes through timelines that lead to places that might exist." The message spread throughout the galaxy. There was a species on the third planet of an ordinary yellow star that could think in multiple timelines simultaneously. They had ended a war by becoming something their enemies couldn't understand. Trade routes opened that had been closed for centuries. Species that had hidden from galactic civilization emerged to meet the timeline walkers. Scientific discoveries multiplied as human quantum consciousness, combined with alien knowledge from dozens of worlds. The war had dragged on for 12 years because both sides had been fighting conventionally. It ended in 5 hours because humanity finally learned to fight as what they truly were: quantum beings who had been pretending to be ordinary creatures. Dr. Chang stood in her new laboratory, watching human children play games that involved thinking in multiple timelines simultaneously. The future stretched out before them in infinite possibilities, and for the first time in galactic history, there was a species that could see them all. the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had taken its place among the cosmos not as conquerors, but as beings who could think their way through problems that had no conventional solutions. They had ended a war not through violence, but by becoming something beyond their enemy's ability to comprehend. The timeline walkers had arrived, and reality itself would never be quite the same again.